You're listening to the Veterans Impact Show, continuing the mission of service and bringing together our civilian and military communities. Brought to you by Fairway Independent Mortgage and Lone Star Wealth Strategies. Don't worry, retire happy and work with us. This is Jim Blythe. This is the Veterans Impact Show. And all across America, we're here for you. This is the great Chuck Wright. You talk about a Marine who continues the mission and is so heavily involved throughout the entire DFW Metroplex in volunteer work. Toys for Tots, the Marine Corps League, you name it, Wreaths Across America. Welcome, Chuck, and thank you for being a game changer in the veterans field.
Hey, and you forgot some of the important ones. I sit on the board of the DFW USO, but the one I really want to talk about today, not today, but as we do this intro, and it's important because we just extended the deadline for grant applications. I sit on the Fund for Veteran Assistance. Texas has very much built the model, and as we're coming to you from lovely downtown Frisco, Texas on a rainy day today, I want to share this, and we realize that our outreach is national, but we want to brag a little on Texas because we always do it a little better in Texas. And Texas has very much built the model for serving veterans. And a lot of that, but not all of it, we do through the Texas Veterans Commission. And one of the things they have, it's called the Fund for Veteran Assistance, and we literally fund this almost entirely from the veteran scratch-off tickets. And there's an element of that. We can have a debate offline about whether that's a good idea or not, but I know it brings a lot of money in. So if you're a nonprofit and you are supporting veterans, you can apply. And the easiest way to do this, and I'll start this with this real quick plug, go to the Texas Veterans Commission's website, look for the word funding. It's right at the top, and I'm sorry, I can't remember exactly where it is, and I didn't think to bring this up before the show. And blame Jim because he started off going down this path, and I was like, oh my gosh, I forgot to talk about this. We've extended the deadline for a couple of weeks, but we can award grants up to $500,000 for organizations that support our veterans. More details there. There's a webinar. Strongly suggest you watch it first. I have been reaching out to a lot of organizations that I hope, there we go.
Yeah.
There it is. Right there, big bold letters, and you can see visit apply home. Sorry, I'm bumbling my words. So for our radio listeners, it's the Texas Veterans Commission website. It's right smack dab in the middle, so you can't miss it. For those that are watching on Facebook, that'll be watching us on YouTube, you'll see the site scrolling by. So sorry, I didn't mean to hijack the first part
Chuck,
of the show.
I think that's a great idea. I'm glad you did that. And Chuck, one of the things is I'd like to know who are some of the recipients so people can get an idea of who you've given money to.
So one of the things that I love is that because of the nature of this work, it is one of the ways for faith-based organizations to apply for state money because it's a grant and it's not directly from state money. So we have Easter Seals, we have Salvation Army, we have Catholic Charities, organizations like that. Now, those are the larger. United Way of Tarrant County and United Way of Houston both get large grants. But it goes beyond that. The VFW gets $500,000 every year to provide financial assistance for veterans in need. And that's done through their state organization so that there are good controls on the money. But it starts to trickle down. It's organizations like Grace Under Fire that work with our female veterans. There's a whole slate of organizations that do mental health grants. I was actually talking this week to the people of Rebuilding Greater Dallas. They used to get a grant. They haven't applied for one in a while. They're a very, very small organization, but if you've got the bandwidth to be able to manage a grant, this is a great way to get money to support veterans. And we've got a new program now, or we've modified the way we do this, so you don't have to apply every year as long as you're getting close to what we establish, and basically the organizations establish their own metrics. If they say they're going to serve 24 veterans in the course of a year, as long as they're getting close to 2 veterans a month, that's great. And could be 240, could be 2,400, but you follow the math. But you become an automatic renewal for the second year. So as long as you stay on your metrics, you're getting the paperwork done, everything, there's no red flags, you're likely an automatic renewal. So we've streamlined the program to make it much more efficient. And we want to, and basically what it is, we want to reward those organizations that are taking care of our veterans. I'm actually going to talk, and we're going to talk about it in the third segment of the show. We're doing a dental program in Dallas, and I'm going to talk to the Smiles organization about potentially doing a grant next year. But I wanted to make that quick announcement, and I've gone way over the time that I've been allotted, but that's okay.
I think that's important. And what a lot of people don't know, and you didn't mention this number, last year you guys gave away about $24 million. Is that correct?
No, that's not correct.
Okay, how much?
Over $31 million.
If I'm going to make a mistake, that's a good one to make.
That's the direction to make it in, yes. So it distributes all around the state. We take care to make sure it's done by categories. It's done by regions, so that we make sure the money is apportioned appropriately. Obviously, we're going to send more money to Houston, San Antonio, and the DFW area than we are to the rural parts of the county, but we want to make sure that there's a balance there, and we take a look at that. And the other thing that we do is, it's every 3 years or every 5 years, we do a needs assessment. And the needs assessment determines by region what the veterans in that region say are their greatest needs. And so we also try to do the grant requests and customize them to a degree within the limits that we can to what those people think that they need. So this is just one of a lot of programs that Texas Veterans Commission works on, that the state works on. And then there's one, I've got to segue for just a second, and I really probably should have started with this. We are in the midst of early voting. We're not going to talk about who to vote for, Dr. Dawn Buckingham. Oh, I didn't say that on the air, did I? I'm sorry, she's running for land commissioner, and that is an office that is very important for veterans. But regardless of who you want to vote for, everybody who served, everybody who is out on the sharp point, the sharp end of the spear, went out and put their life on the line for you to have the right to vote. Please exercise that right. Educate yourself a little, especially down the ballot. There's some extremely important races going on statewide. But get out, and your vote is your voice.
Without a doubt, and we need to speak up. Okay, one of the things that you introduced me to, and we got started, and one of the most fabulous days I can remember is the day that I went out to Wreaths Across America, and we actually filmed an interview with a wonderful lady who was putting the wreath on her son's tombstone at the National Cemetery in Dallas. And tell us about that, but tell us about Wreaths Across America.
You're talking about my friend Mary Bush. Her son is in a hockey tournament this morning, or she would have been on the show. Her son was Peter Corsi, although her husband, Chris Bush, is the one who really raised Peter, and Peter considered him as much or more of his dad than his real father. And that's, and face it, in this society, that's not unusual. Peter was from Frisco, right here in glorious home of America's team, Frisco, Texas, and we lost him in Afghanistan, unfortunately. And that is how Chris and Mary Bush got started with the DFW Wreaths Across America program. They are the current coordinators, have been the coordinators from the beginning, and very honored to work with her. She's part of our website, and what Jim's talking about, I can still visualize that. If you have not been to the DFW National Cemetery, it is absolutely gorgeous. This is one of the prettiest parts of Dallas. It sits in a real valley. I mean, you can see the two sides of it. And her son is buried in the highest elevation section of the cemetery, and the way it sits, it looks out over this small valley. It's out by Mountain Creek Lake, and if you go across the valley, you get to Dallas Baptist University, and I think that is the second prettiest campus in the DFW area after SMU, because I think SMU is just flat gorgeous. But Dallas Baptist, just a phenomenal place, phenomenal location, and I remember that day so well. It was clear, and the colors were just popping. It was cold. It's generally cold. We do this. This year we'll do it on, don't believe that. You'll notice the date is 2020 for those that are looking at it. It's December 17th this year. We welcome everyone to come out and join us and place a wreath. Our motto is remember, honor, and teach. And let me quickly talk about each one of those. We want to remember each one of these men and women, each one of these veterans. And I'm going to repeat something that I said when you interviewed me, and we were coming down from that precipice that Mary Bush, that Peter Corsi was buried. And I said, you look out over and you see all of these headstones in gray. There are no colors. We're not black or white, man or woman, yellow, brown, green. I think we've got a few purple aliens, although they crossed the border from outer space, but they still wanted to serve. And I say that, and I don't want to go political, but we've had quite a few people that were in America that were not yet U.S. citizens, but they still served. And some of them were actually pretty incredible. And some of them, you know what, they showed up and they did their job, and when their time was up, they got out of the service, but they are no less veterans than anyone else. And we want to remember. So when we ask you to place a wreath in front of somebody's grave, we ask you to read that headstone. And you will be amazed with the small amount of information on that headstone, what you'll know about that person and what you can learn about that person. We want to honor their service and their sacrifices, and we want to teach. And this may be the most valuable part of this. If you have kids, if you have grandkids, we implore you. We love the kids. Bring your Boy Scout troop out. Bring your Girl Scout troop, the young men's and young women's groups. If you can get a busload of kids from Boys and Girls Club, bring them out so they understand and they start to see, and they can actually physically take that wreath. You don't taste it, because they are real wreaths and they smell really good. But don't eat them, because evergreen is a little bit poisonous. But Chuck, it impacts them. Yes.
One of the things is we're going to be with, Diane and I are going to be with Sea Cadets out there as well. And we're going to be helping them. And here's the young men and women who are involved in the Navy, that are high school age kids. Also, I'm going to be willing to bet the young Marines are going to be out there as well. But this is such a fabulous thing, and I'm so glad you brought up the thing about children. I cannot forget all of the young children and people sometimes putting wreaths on a family member's tombstone, sometimes just putting it on people they didn't know, but there was nobody there, and that was fantastic.
Yeah, so our goal this year is going to be, and it's grown. We will be putting wreaths on over 50,000 grave sites this year. It's grown up. When I first did it, it was about 28,000.
Now, we've got on the website for Facebook. We need to get it out there, Wreaths Across America. It's not just Dallas, Fort Worth, San Antonio, El Paso, and across America, there are national cemeteries. So we're going to be right back after these words from all of our partners.
Our Facebook page is DFW Wreaths, so we keep it all real simple. Everything is the same. But our big ask is that if you will sponsor, and we are in our last 30 days of what we call wreath raising, one $15 wreath to honor one veteran, we would so appreciate it. It will make such a difference as we try to fit the wreaths that we get to 50,000 plus grave sites. As Jim was mentioning, there are national cemeteries in San Antonio, Houston, and El Paso. We also run 4 state cemeteries in the state of Texas. As I'd mentioned before, Dr. Don Buckingham's office will run that. That's run through our Texas General Land Office. I'm getting dirty looks from the staff going, hey, you're not supposed to do that. You're exactly right, I'm not. But what I was going to say is we have state cemeteries in Austin, Kerrville, Corpus Christi, and in Killeen at Fort Hood. I knew there was one that I was missing. So there are 8 cemeteries. But the other thing I was going to add on to what Jim had mentioned is you can create, especially if you've got a lot of veterans. So we have Wreaths Across America programs at non-veteran cemeteries, at regular cemeteries, but that they honor veterans, and those cemeteries and the people that run it have figured out who the veteran grave sites are, and you'll get instructions and all that. Because there's a lot of veterans in the McKinney Cemetery. I can't remember. I think it's the Oak Grove Cemetery, Oak Point, Oak something. They have a strong Wreaths Across America program as well.
Chuck, I believe Restland here in Dallas has it because they have a designated area for veterans. Yep. So check out Wreaths Across America. And I tell you what, Diane, let's put $30. Let's get 2 wreaths because there's one of us, and let's see what we can do to support Wreaths Across America.
There we go.
And I want to thank Nathaniel and Diane. We just changed out my headset, so I didn't hear the intro when we did it. If you wondered what happened and what went wrong, this is live. This is real. This is
real stuff. And, hey, you know what? We need to take a second. We need to recognize our staff, our terrific producer from Ascend Podcast, soon to be Ascend Media. We're
coming back in 1 second, though.
All right.
Oh, we'll do that on the other side then.
Welcome back to the Veterans Impact Show, and thanks to our sponsors, Fairway Independent Mortgage and Lone Star Wealth Strategies. Now, let's continue this great conversation. Boy, what a great day. I'm here with my great friend Chuck Wright, and we're talking about events as we're going into the holiday season. And, of course, one of the most important events that's coming up is obviously Veterans Day, but that leads us and segues into what we're talking about with Wreaths Across America. And that's important. And, Chuck, you're very heavily involved in that. So, again, let's deep dive into it and talk about, you mentioned 50,000 wreaths.
This is just DFW alone. Absolutely right. Fort Sam Houston and San Antonio and Houston both have national cemeteries, as does El Paso. They will also all have programs. And as I was talking, we have 4 state cemeteries in Texas: Killeen, Kerrville, Corpus Christi, and Austin.
I bet there's a lot in Corpus Christi because that was a Navy, still is a Navy town.
Big Navy town down there. Still do a lot of Navy training at the air bases down there. Do a lot of
Beeville.
A lot of naval aviators coming through there. I used to be a naval aviator back in the day. I guess I still am. I'll never stop.
You never stop. You get to wear those golden wings.
Yes, I do.
And I think that's exciting. And one of the things that I want to make a point, I'm segueing, but I'm going down a rabbit hole. But
we have no idea.
One of the things about many people that don't understand, not all positions are in combat. You flew SAR helicopter rescue missions to save lives. And basically, there's a lot of things, even within aviation, that are not necessarily in a combative situation, that are tremendous training.
Oh, absolutely. And we've talked about that, and you've mentioned Sea Cadets and bringing groups like Sea Cadets and Young Marines, JROTC units out. And we get several of those, and they're fun because they come marching in and they look great. to our cemetery, and I'm sure this happens across the state. I'm always tied up in DFW. I've been doing this. We're getting close to, I think next year will be year number 10, because I'm trying to remember when we initially started our first radio show, that whose name will never be mentioned by my lips again. That's a backstory.
January of 15.
Okay, so yes, we're coming up on me being part of Wreaths Across America for 10 years, and it was a lot of fun. And you talk about my first experience with it was an absolutely frigid day. It was cold. It was so much colder than the day we were out there. It was one of those Texas cold days where the clouds were hanging low and real gray. And if you're from Texas, you know exactly what I'm talking about. And the wind comes down from the north, and there's nothing to block. There's nothing to block the wind that's coming out of Canada to Texas. It's all flatland. That's the flatland of America, because we're on the east side of the Rockies. So we call them blue northers. And we call them blue northers because the clouds get this steely blue. So sorry,
it gets cold. It gets real
cold.
But here's the thing: us Texans ain't used to it. We get to go up to Wisconsin occasionally to be with Diane's family, and they talk about, well, how during the winter we get 7-8 feet of snow, and I'm like, whoa,
no reason. There's a reason so many snowbirds come to Texas for the wintertime. Anyway, and we've gotten way off track, but it's such a moving experience to get to know. And I now have, and his grave is relatively new, but there was a World War II era Marine. I obviously have not had enough of my Dunkin' Donuts coffee. I need to turn this so that the camera can see that I am promoting Dunkin' Donuts coffee, and why they are not a sponsor of the show is just beyond me. So anybody knows anybody at Dunkin', give them a call and say, hey, got to sponsor this show, man. This is a great show. Because it's about Charlie Mike. And I want to talk about that for a second, because this is, to me, part of Continue the Mission. And we are in the middle of what I call veteran season. A lot of us call veteran season. And this is the time when veterans are at the forefront of so many of our minds. But let's never forget, and to me, the last event of veteran season is really 17 December. We got 50 seconds. One.
Going.
Just relax a minute. You think we've never done this before? We're trying to do the Charlie Mike Comedy Hour.
Hear the music.
Oh, there we go. Now here's the music. So we get musical cues in our ears. So and I know the audience is going, "What are these idiots talking about?"
I tell you what. At least they know it's raw and live. So for our radio audience, thank you for being on board, especially in South Texas. We love having you. Go to the No Bull Radio Network to find out more about us. California, go to the AUN Network. And we're going to be right back after these words from all of our partners. Facebook, stay with us, because we're continuing the mission.
He's the Marine that I put the wreath on, and we've kind of adopted him as our family. And it's part of the logistics. The cemetery is very large, and I have another Marine. I actually have several other Marines that are buried out there, but the problem is I can't get to them and get back over to where I'm a section captain unless I just do that real early. And I have been known to do that. I've been known when I get out there at 8 o'clock in the morning to go over and put a wreath on my friend Evelyn Holland's son's gravesite, just so that he has a wreath coming from somebody who knows his family, and it is just a way. So we talked about remember, honor, teach, and the comment is that every man dies 2 deaths: the day that he actually dies, and the day that the last person says his name aloud. And I have made a promise to a TBS classmate of mine that as long as somebody in my family is alive, his name will never be forgotten. And that's my friend, First Lieutenant Don Woolly Bear Willett. We lost him. The anniversary was last Sunday, so we're just at 6 days from that anniversary. And we lost him in the bomb blast in Beirut. We should have talked about that on the show. In fact, in our final segment, we're going to talk about some of the other programs that are going on. But to kind of wrap up, and in fact, we probably need to start moving into that. So let's wrap this up and let's talk about DFW Wreaths. We're kind of focused on that because that's where we go. That's where we're working. You can go to the website and it says sponsor a wreath here. It's a $15 wreath. We'd really appreciate you sponsoring a wreath. Come find us on Facebook. Same address on Facebook, DFW Wreaths, 2 W's. Like the page. And we post some interesting stories on there. This coming year, we're going to try to get more and more stories about the individuals and the families that are interned at the DFW National Cemetery. As Jim said, there are other national cemeteries. My father is buried at Fort Sam Houston in San Antonio. Fun fact, and a lot of people don't know this, your spouse can be buried with you at a national cemetery. Now, I don't know what happens in the case of guys who get divorced and remarried, and then they have 2 or 3 women, and they build their own.
It's going to be a real crowded cemetery. Yeah.
It's going to be a crowded plot. We're not going to go down that path. We were being a little bit silly, but yes, you can. And I found this out recently. This was interesting. If your spouse dies before you do, she can be buried first. Really? I thought that was very interesting.
How about that?
So, yes, so absolutely, and this is a way for couples to be there forever. So we got hand signs going over here. I didn't know what we needed. You know what? Are we coming back?
Yeah.
Oh, we're about to come back. So, Facebook, hang on with us for a second. We're about to welcome our radio audience back. And I want to do something. I got 2 seconds.
Welcome back. This is the Veterans Impact Show, and thanks to our great sponsors, Fairway Independent Mortgage and Lone Star Wealth Strategies. Now, let's continue this conversation. This is a great conversation today because we're entering into not only the holiday season, but as Chuck said, the veteran season. So this is Jim Blythe and Chuck Wright. We're both veterans, and we continue the mission by doing everything we can to help veterans throughout the United States. So we've been talking about Wreaths Across America. It's not just a DFW event. There are cemeteries throughout America. The national cemeteries all have Wreaths Across America, where they're going to be putting wreaths on the graves.
Not just national, international.
International.
We have grave sites in Australia. The program goes to Guam. Of course, Guam's technically a U.S. territory, but there are multiple cemeteries now in Europe that are starting this program. So it is absolutely incredible. But I want to segue real fast. One thing we always fail to do, I wanted to thank Nathaniel Smith, our incredible producer, who is part of Ascend Podcast, soon to be the media conglomerate Ascend Media. The young man's growing big. I'm looking forward to buying stock in his firm when he does his first IPO. And then the lovely Diane Blythe, who manages our Facebook account and does all these wonderful things. And she's hilarious, and she cracks me up because she's always over here freaking out because we're always missing our cues and talking over and doing stuff we're not supposed to do. And we sometimes do it just to watch her just head explode.
Hey, I got to go home. So let's be careful with that, okay? I mean, seriously. No, we're very appreciative, but we're also very appreciative to the radio network in South Texas, to the TV network in California, to all of the people that pick this up across America. So we ask you to share this. We ask you to sponsor us on YouTube.
Subscribe to us on YouTube. We'll welcome some sponsors, but it's just all you got to do is subscribe. We don't send you emails. We don't.
No, but if you want to get a hold of us, you can get a hold of us through our Facebook channel. And I tell you what, we are always available. And for Joe in Jacksonville, thanks for all the things you send me. See, we've got
Joe. You're the man.
He is. From sea to shining sea.
Absolutely.
And I think it's even more important, though, that we talk about, take a look where in your area, what are the veterans events going on? Have you got a parade? Can you take your grandchildren? Can you take your children to the parade? Let them see the veterans that are there. Let them see the bands. Let them enjoy that. These things build, I think, unity in our nation, which we need right now more than anything. Let's look past the extremes and say, let's honor our veterans who served, and many of which have continued to serve for a long time.
I could not agree with that point more. We need to focus on what we have in common, not what we have different. And I have said this, it's a bit of a beating a dead horse, but I truly believe that our country really started to heal. We started to mend the divides, and I know there's some people that are trying to fuel it right now. We've never been in better shape. This country has never been, and I know we're struggling. We've got inflation right now. We're going to get past this. We are going to get past this. But when you look at what was really, really wrong with America, I am convinced that it is our military. It is our veterans that led the way, that people got together. And the military is this incredible melting pot. You get together, and when you're dealing with people, talk about sea to shining sea, you talk about north to south, it's crazy. And you are almost forced to adapt to other people. And you start to look at them and you see them not as some cracker from the south, or some Yankee from the north, or some crazy Swede from Minnesota, but you start to see these as the people that you serve with, and you start to find what you have in common. And one of the things, and it was one of the things for those who were listening earlier, that it struck me that day that Jim and Diane were interviewing my friend Mary Bush as she was placing a wreath on her son's grave, that we're looking out over these now over 50,000 headstones. They're all gray. They don't designate anybody there by color, by race, by creed, a little bit of religion, because there is a religious emblem on there, which a lot of people think is extremely important. But that's the only way you can tell these people apart. These are veterans, men, women. It doesn't matter. They all serve. This is the bond that we share in common, and it's a bond that part of why we do what we do.
Well, you know, Chuck, one of the most delightful things that Diane and I have done in a long time was the dedication for veterans adjacent to the VA facility in Fort Worth, and it was a Tuskegee Airman named retirement center. And they had a retired Tuskegee general who'd been apparently the commanding officer, which I didn't know. Fabulous speaker. And
fabulous man.
A fabulous man. And that took me back, because I sat next to a great man at a dinner one night across from his son, and he was a brigadier general who was a Tuskegee Airman that served in Korea and in Vietnam, a brigadier general. And he rose up through the ranks, and we talked, and it was fantastic to be able to hear his history. And so we have so much history. I got to tell you,
I love the Tuskegee Airmen. I've been honored to have met several of them. I envy you for you being able to spend that much time visiting with one of them. That is just awesome.
It was incredible. And I think this is very, very important, because together we're going to heal. Together we're going to come together. Together we're going to continue the mission. And that's what we're all about. Now, let's talk about some of the other events that are coming up.
This is a great one that's coming up. I'm really excited you guys brought this one to me. Let's pop up our, and this is from the Texas Mercy Foundation and the Smiles Foundation for the Texas Mission of Mercy, and the Texas Dental Association Smiles Foundation. Talk about this event.
This is real important, because a lot of people don't know. By the way, this is a
Dallas-focused event.
It's a Dallas-focused event, but this is also a Texas Mercy Mission Foundation. And one of the big problems I think we see in the VA is they have limited dental. This is a free dental clinic for veterans, and especially they're targeting homeless veterans to be able to come and to get help. So we've got this up on the screen. It's November 4th and 5th, and it's the Texas Dental Association Smiles Foundation. Go look it up. And if you know a homeless veteran, if you know a veteran who's having dental problems but doesn't have the money, plug into this or call us and say, hey, Jim, we need to know about this, and I'll hook you up, because Dr. Swift, my dentist, is one of the ladies behind this. And so this is really important. This is a badly, badly needed thing in dental care. And,
Absolutely.
And you want to see somebody's health go south, then you just watch their dental care go down, and they will go down. And I think that's important. I think one of the other things that I also want to talk about, which is going to be enormous, is probably the biggest fundraiser and one of the biggest events in the United States is sold out now, Skyball. And I think this speaks volumes about Dallas-Fort Worth. It's going to be held in the middle of Dallas-Fort Worth. It is a huge event at Globe Life Park. Diane and I are going to be there. We're going to be interviewing Don Graves. We're going to be interviewing men and women. We're going to be interviewing Medal of Honor winners.
Winners?
So, yeah,
There's a contest?
I'm sorry, the recipient. Yeah, it is, to stay alive. So I want everybody to know that we're going to be on Facebook and we're going to be on YouTube with that event as well, that we get to promote that event. And then going back to what Chuck's talking about on Wreaths Across America, I got news for you. My buddy and I are going to be elbow to elbow putting wreaths on, but we're going to videotape that as well. And we're going to show that across the nation.
Absolutely. And this will be December 17th. I realize we haven't updated the website. I'm actually shocked that nobody's sent me an email and said, hey, fix the website. But December 17th, it will be December 17th across the nation. I actually attended Arlie Ermey's funeral in January, and it was a beautiful setting. He was buried at Arlington, and then we had a light dusting of snow in D.C., and it was the Friday before. We have to go out in January and pick up all the wreaths, and that's a fun day, too, and it's a fun day of service. So if you've got a pickup truck and a broomstick, come on out and help us out. We'll do that the third Saturday in January, and it's a lot of fun. It is. I know we're talking a lot about the veterans who are now hanging out in Valhalla.
Yeah.
But you would be amazed how uplifting and how powerful you feel. I have several friends that I've gotten involved in this, and they absolutely love the event, and they talk about how much they get out of it. And face it, at the end of the day, it's always what's in it for you. And you know what? I have absolutely no problem with that. So DFWWreaths.com, DFW Wreaths on Facebook. Sponsor a $15 wreath. We'll love you forever for it. I'll even send you a nice thank you note once I break the code on how to use our new system.
Oh, that could be a while.
Well, Chuck,
That could be a while.
Chuck, we've got another event, too, the Commanders Classic football game between Air Force and Army, the Black Knights versus the Lightning Bolt from the Air Force.
Fighting Falcons.
The Fighting Falcons. That ought to be, hey, by the way, if you jump out of a perfectly good plane being a Black Knight, make sure you don't run into a Falcon on the way down. I got to tell you,
Those are the Golden Knights. The Hudson High, as we jokingly refer to our friends from West Point
now,
as
be
attending
nice.
Hudson
Be
High.
nice. You were a Marine. Be nice.
Yeah, that's all right. I call the Naval Academy Canoe U.
Oh, well, that's one of the biggest canoe clubs in the world.
Absolutely.
And
Those guys
without
are
a
good
doubt,
canoers.
though, the Commanders Classic is going
yeah.
to be so much fun. It'll be on TV. Army versus Air Force. What a great deal. We haven't had a game like this in a long time.
Well, actually, this is the second year. I actually got to go last year. I was very honored. I was invited to attend the game and watch it from the suite of the Houston West Point Alumni Club. Great organization. And this year, sadly, I'm going to miss it because I'm going to be in South Texas attending my great-nephew's final high school football game.
Wow.
Yeah. So I will miss the game, but it's a great event. I'm really hoping that this becomes an annual event at Globe Life Park. Surprisingly worked well for football because a lot of baseball stadiums don't. But this seemed to work pretty well. And I cannot say enough. This is the true beauty of college football. And you've got to love a game where everybody on the field is willing to die for everybody in the stands.
Wow.
You know, Chuck,
Sorry.
No, I got to tell you, that's what people don't realize. These guys are not going on to professional. They're going on to be professional soldiers and sailors and airmen and doing the things that keep us free and keep us safe. And I think that's hugely important. And, you know, God bless them. And I hope there's a whole bunch of Roger Staubachs in this game.
Oh, absolutely.
Who come on back out. And I think, personally, knowing Roger Staubach, what he learned in the Naval Academy, what he did, not only for the Cowboys, but what he has done in business, just emphasizes the education he got at Canoe U.
Yeah, absolutely. And I say that with all due respect and with all due fondness. And I should mention this. I talked earlier about Lieutenant Woolley Bear Woollett, Don Woollett, and he was a graduate of the Naval Academy. So I say it with absolute affection, and I refer to Hudson High. And let me tell you something. You talk about a beautiful campus. Actually, both of them. But the campus at West Point literally sits on the Hudson River. It is so phenomenal. Just a beautiful place and a great museum there. So it is a great place. Got to put it on your bucket list.
I got to tell you another one. They have now, as I understand it, they've now opened up the Air and Space Museum at Pensacola Naval Air Station, which is one of the most exciting air and space museums in the world. It is unbelievable. Of course, obviously, it's a great deal of naval history. We're taking the Sea Cadets down there hopefully next month, and Diane and I get to go with them. That is going to be a tremendous adventure. If you want to know more about Sea Cadets, well, just type in Sea Cadets and look at it, because that is a great opportunity, along with Young Marines, Junior ROTC. These
We're going to talk
programs,
about that on the other side just a little bit.
Yeah.
But I want to mention, make sure you check out the halls where all the squadron plaques are hanging.
You bet.
As you will see one with yours truly's name on it.
oh, you got a plaque?
Oh, yeah.
One of my A4s is hanging in the entryway.
Oh, wow. That's pretty cool. That's pretty
Hey,
cool.
this is fun, and thank you for being with us. And Facebook, stay with us. And in our radio audience, thank you so much. Take a look at YouTube. This is the Veteran Impact Show. We're here for you every Saturday morning. Thank you.
Beautiful. Nailed that one. All right, Facebook, we're still here with you. We're being silly and doing all that other crazy stuff.
Well, we have to apologize, Chuck, because I had a bad set of headphones, and I didn't hear the intro of the show way back when. And so I fumbled the ball.
And the problem is he allowed one loss to become two because he keeps fumbling and fumbling. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
So the one thing that I wanted to say, and I'll tell the story real fast, is that when squadrons would go into Subic Bay or Key Point, which was the Naval Air Station, on their deployments, the Filipinos do some incredible woodworking. And what we would do is we would have these custom mahogany plaques made up that had everybody's name and the squadron logo and everything carved in them, and they are quite beautiful. And so they used to every squadron used to get two of them every year, or every deployment, excuse me, not every year, but every deployment. One of them that would hang in your squadron ready room, and the other one that would hang in the officers club at Key Point. And yes, this was kind of an officer thing, so, I get that. But it was just a really cool memento. And it is amazing to me how many times somebody went through the Naval Air Museum at Pensacola that I would get one of my crew chiefs or one of the enlisted guys would send me a picture and said, hey, geez, we found your plaque. And there's just so much pride in units And it's just something I wish we could bottle and sell because we'd be billionaires, because it's just an incredible feeling.
I got to tell you, speaking of units, I want you to tell everybody your
wasn't
company.
sure where that one was going.
Well, okay, let me tell you where I'm going. I want to promote what we do in the companies that sponsors your Lone Star Wealth Strategies.
Don't worry, retire happy.
Yeah, well, you set up my mother-in-law, you set up Diane and I with self-funded pensions that also have health insurance riders with them. You have set us up for success. You know, what you say, or say it again, retire happy?
Don't worry, retire happy.
Well, we've got a base, and that is a fabulous thing because 95% of the people in the United States don't have anything but Social Security, and that's not good. And that's where I come into play with Fairway Independent Mortgage. I do reverse mortgage lending, but I'm a certified senior advisor. I do a lot of counseling. I help veterans get plugged in to the VA. I help veterans get plugged in to organizations that can help them. Do you know, for instance, Home Depot has a foundation to help veterans and to help seniors with home repairs. Yep. There's some fabulous companies out there, and one of the things that I found out, Fairway is got an independent or a affiliated business arrangement with a company called Frisco Services, and I had an appraisal with problems, and they got the lady on the phone who goes through and looks at it, and she's helping me to solve the problem. In all of my years since 1994, I have never had somebody help me when I had a problem, and so I'm so thankful to Fairway and thankful to Jerry for helping me.
Thanks, Jerry. Okay, we've got a few seconds here.
All right, let's keep going. We're going to be back on the air in just a few seconds, right, Nathaniel?
We're going to be back on the radio in just a few seconds.
And I'm excited. So thank you, Fairway. Thank you, Lone Star Wealth Strategies. And basically, thank you for the United States Navy and the United States Marine Corps for training us.
Amen.
Amen. Welcome back. This is the Veterans Impact Show, and thanks to our great sponsors, Fairway Independent Mortgage and Lone Star Wealth Strategies. Now, let's continue this conversation. Well, you know, Chuck, this has been so great. Normally, I get to interview really, really great people like I did.
This week you got stuck with me.
And today I get to interview you, which is even better because you literally got me back continuing the mission in 2015. Yep. And I appreciate that, and it changed my life. And so I want to say to my veteran brothers and sisters out there, if you did what I did, which is put your uniform in a box with some mothballs and say, I don't ever want to go back, I don't ever want to look back, let me tell you something. There is a wonderful band of brothers and sisters out there that are waiting for you to continue the mission and come back and join us. So go to your local American Legion. Go to your local VFW. Get plugged in. Go to your Marine Corps League, Navy League, Air Force has a group as well, and AUSA for Army. I got to tell you, tune in, plug in, and be a part of that, and remember the good stuff that happened. Remember the things that you learn that provide you with leadership, and even remember some of the bad things that happened because you know it ain't going to happen again. So thank you for your service, Chuck.
Absolutely.
And thank you for getting me back into this.
Yeah, and let's talk about, we talked about what we call the traditional veteran service organizations, but let's go beyond that. Let's talk about groups like Team Rubicon, and we're going to have them on, and that will be a show you do not want to miss. Not enough of my Dunkin' Donuts coffee, or maybe there's a little too much Kahlua in there.
I think we're going to add some Baileys next week.
Add some Baileys next week. So we got a couple of things coming up. Let's talk about, real fast, we'll wrap up with DFW Wreaths. We're showing right now for our Facebook crowd, the DFW Wreaths Facebook page. Jump on that page, like that page. But December 17th, join us. Come out to place a wreath in the morning. Please be there by 10. Parking is a chore. It is not designed for that many people. The cemetery is.
Chuck, is 17th of December a national day?
Yes.
So you can go in Arlington, you can go in California, you can go in San Antonio.
Yes.
It's all going to be the same across the
I
nation.
believe, don't quote me on this, but I believe we do in fact cover every national cemetery at a bare bones minimum. We cover more than that. So December 17th, here's an opportunity right now for you to get out and meet some other veterans. Nathaniel, let's jump over and talk about Smiles. That's important. That's coming up this weekend, Friday and Saturday, the 4th and 5th of November, as we're getting into veterans. As we're approaching the end of veteran season, I guess I should say, the Texas Dental Association, Smile Foundation, and the Texas Mission of Mercy is providing free dental care for our veterans. You do need to sign up. The slots get filled up, and they want to make sure they make the most use of the dentists who are there volunteering time. It's going to be at the Salvation Army building in Garland. It's at 451 West Avenue D. I have no idea where that is, but look it up on the map. Google either one of those organizations, but if you're if you're not in the DFW area, Google those organizations anyway, because they are doing this across the state. And dental service is something that is really, really needed. Okay, not really sure. We're getting close to the end. I wanted to talk about those two events. We're talking about a few of our upcoming shows. There are a tremendous number of ways to get plugged in. If you're hearing us, if you're listening to us, you can find us on Facebook, The Veteran Impact Show. You can find us on our YouTube channel. And you can, if you'll put a note there and you want help getting connected, drop us a note. Let us know how we can reach you, and we'll be happy to help you plug into your area. I'm going to turn it over to Jim to take us into port.
I think it's time for a prayer. So, Lord God, we thank you for our active duty military, our brothers and sisters. Thank you for protecting them around the world and across the nation as they protect all of us. And thank you for all the veterans in the service they did. Thank you, Lord God, and we thank you for so very, very much. Unite this nation. Bring us together. Amen.
Okay, we've got about 60 seconds left. One of the things that I wanted to mention, we talked about two programs, Sea Cadets and Young Marines. Most people are familiar with the high school JROTC programs. These programs were set up because not every high school has JROTC, and they are set up as a way for kids that do not have access to JROTC to get plugged into. And we need to find out, because I'm sure the Army and the Air Force have something similar to that. The Navy and the Marine Corps are always leading the way.
The Army is JROTC. And by the way, if you're a single-parent family, let me give you a big shout-out that basically 99% of all of the young men and women who participate in these programs graduate from high school and go on to college, schools, and the military. Thank you, and this has been the Veterans Impact Show. We'll see you next week. Jim and Chuck and Diane and Nathaniel, thank you.